Well, hi, everyone. My name is Jerry Wise. I'm a life and relationship coach. I've been helping people for 40 plus years. I have a guest joining me, Yitz Goldberg. He also works with Jerry Wise Relationship Systems, and he is a coach as well as a social worker. And he joins me today on the beginning of this series that we're doing on the principles of self-differentiation. I hope you'll subscribe to the YouTube channel. Please click join to become a paid member. It's only $1.99 every month. And that really helps us do these free videos for you. And then I have a workshop coming up December 5th, 2020 on Saturday from 1 to 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Please go to the website, look under events, and you can join me for that workshop on reducing your reactivity. Hey, hello, Yitz. Good to be with
Hey,
you
Jerry.
again.
Yep, I'm excited for the series.
We've got a number of principles we're going to be going through, and we're trying to get those covered because I think they can be helpful in some shorter videos that we do for you to bring you each of these principles. And today we're talking about a principle of self-differentiation, in which differentiation is the capacity to take a stand in an intense emotional system.
Yeah.
So, and again, what we've been borrowing from Edwin Friedman's book, The Failure of Nerve, which is a great book I would recommend to anyone. And he talks about differentiation as an emotional change, not just a behavioral change, and one in which we are able to live in a certain state of differentiation rather than a particular act of differentiation. It's getting ourselves to where we are in a state of greater self-differentiation. And the first principle talks about our ability to take a stand in an intense emotional system. But
Yeah.
I think you can have an increased ability in self-differentiation, even to learn to do it in a lesser intense emotional system, because we can take our baby steps and begin to practice taking a stand in even lower anxiety systems and work our way up to more intense relationship systems.
Yeah,
Um,
that would be good practice. Even though our usually our differentiation is challenged when the system is intense, like when the emotional system is intense, that's usually when our differentiation is most challenged. So
correct.
yeah, to
And
me, I think this whole idea of uh, keeping a stand, taking a stand in a tense emotional system is usually what I deal with, for example, with clients who say my father is a narcissist or my family is dysfunctional or my workplace is like this, and they always describe the system around them as being very intense, very unhealthy, very immature, as if
high
that allowed
anxiety.
them, yeah, as if that allowed them until now to be undifferentiated, right? To continue to being immature. And
Good point.
yeah, and they could do that, meaning if that's what they want, how they want to live their life, they could do that. But at the end of the
So,
day, we are
so they would
challenged.
be asked. So they would be asking, well, how can I possibly differentiate given all of this drama and chaos?
Right, right.
Is the is their cutting edge, right, where they're at the cutting edge of change?
But that is where you are supposed to differentiate. Those are the places that you are going to be challenged. And actually, those are the places that, with the right work, you're able to really differentiate on a much deeper level, not only just because the surroundings are kind of okay and they're not challenging you.
Well, and I think of it as the whole fear overcoming a fear issue. We'll be ready to do it when my fear goes away, versus are you ready to do it and go through the fear, um, and not wait for it to go away. We're always wanting the circumstances and situations to be amenable and to be uh, how we'd
Yeah.
like them to be. Well, I would differentiate from my mom if she was just more understanding. Well, no, differentiation is differentiation regardless of her understanding or not understanding.
Yeah.
That's the it doesn't it's not dependent on them. And in fact, if we are wise, we then, and that'll be another principle we're talking about, is what happens when we do differentiate in a highly charged or an intense emotional system. Usually it won't be welcomed with calmness and, affirmation. And if you know that going in, you're able to fortify yourself more and staying calm with not needing that approval,
Yeah.
not needing that acceptance.
Yeah.
Now, I
To
interrupted
me,
you.
no, I was saying that to me, taking a stand in an intense emotional system, it means that I'm not trying to change the system, nor
Exactly.
am I trying to change myself for the system. And throughout this time, I stay myself despite the system trying to change me and despite the system not changing. Right. So
Right.
this is the process of differentiation, allowing the system or the people to continue being who they are or doing what they are doing, but you're the one differentiating. You're the one taking the steps outside, or more you, more of a
Yeah,
self, right?
more
Creating
of
more of
self.
an I, right?
Right.
You're not
And
leaving the system to rebel. You're leaving the system because it's right for you, or you're doing things that are different than what is expected from the system because it's right for you, not out of I don't know, resentment or trying to get back at the system. Right? That would
right,
just be
which
being
a
reactive.
cutoff. That would be a cutoff, which is what we often do, thinking we're changing. Well, I'll just cut off from them, and then I'll be different. And by the way, cutoff and going no contact are two different things. Cutoff is an immature avoidance. No contact is a mature intentional choice, or low contact is a mature intentional choice and not based on my immaturity. It's based on my maturity. And so I like to make those distinctions because a lot of people will think a cutoff is being mature. No,
Yeah.
that's you can't handle the heat in the kitchen, so you get out of the kitchen. Rather than taking in a bucket of cold water with ice in it to take care of yourself in a hot kitchen. That's I can take care of myself, and maybe I can even step into the dining room to get out of the hot kitchen, but I'm still talking to the people who are in the kitchen. And so I
Yeah.
have connectedness while being myself, my real self. And I realize, and we then there's a whole continuum of problems, from severe narcissists and malignant narcissists to abuse situations to, just good old neurotic families and dysfunctional families. And so one shoe doesn't fit all people, but this work of differentiation is something everyone can do and is important for us to do to grow up and to be mature.
Right. Because for one person, staying in contact with an intense system could be the right thing, if that's what they're interested in doing.
Hmm.
And for another, really going no contact out of a mature kind of state, that would be the right thing for them to do. Jerry, I wanted to ask you, what would you recommend to someone who's in an emotional intense system right now, in a system that's very charged up, a lot of anxiety going on, also from the person himself or herself, and from the family or
Yeah.
the system. What would you recommend for them? What would you tell them to do that will allow them to kind of see themselves, right? To stay calm inside the system, and yet know what they need to do, like what their next steps are.
And of course, that's a big question because there's a lot connected to that. Um, but I think I would talk to people about and talk to clients about ha false beliefs, how much we have, or well, let me talk about enmeshment first. I might talk about enmeshment. How enmeshed are we? Meaning, how much do I need their approval? How much do I need their acceptance? How much do I need to borrow self from them? And if I don't get it, then all is lost and it's a catastrophe,
Yeah.
because that's going to keep us more reactive and more, and learning to get to the place where we're saying, so what that they reject me? So what? It won't make my pants fall down, is what I use in a silly, trying to be silly or playful, because I want to think about, well, what really would happen if they reject me? Most of the time, we're fearing something that's already happening, but we're fearing it's going to happen. It's already happening, and you're still alive. I mean, you're still, when we say, well, what if my parents reject me? They probably already are. I mean, and you're still hanging in there. And so the catastrophe often does not exist, but we have fear of that. To bring our fears down, working on that enmeshment, and learning to heal some of the wounds and hurt so I can get greater detachment. In other words, if I was wounded or as a child, emotionally or self-esteem wise, then I'll keep going back to try to get something from them that they can't give. And then I'm going to stay in the emotional drama and the highly charged nature of it until I get it.
Right.
Well, I try to talk about the illogicalness of that, not to shame anyone. It's not. That's what we've learned to do. But the point is to help them with the realities of, your parents can't do that anymore. That you don't need your parents for, and I'm just using parents for an example. It could be your ex, it could be your children, it could be your boss, your what. You
Yeah.
don't need them anymore to be emotionally sound. And if you're looking for them to be that, then you're barking up the wrong tree. You don't need them. It's not necessary. It's bad news, but it's good news. The bad news is, oh, you mean my parents are never going to accept me and love me like I've always wanted? That's bad news. But do you know what? It's good news because your parents can't do that anyway. And I was just talking to some clients, and they were talking about how they were wounded by their parents growing up. Their parents later in life apologized and were remorseful for what they had done. Amazingly, it doesn't heal the wounds. Now, do I think parents should apologize? Absolutely. And I'm glad they were. I think that's a wonderful gift. But if someone else causes me a wound, it's now my responsibility to
Right.
heal the wound. So
Yeah.
it's my wound. It's not theirs. They can't fix that. And if they can come to that understanding, then we end up having more power and more sense of empowerment, where now I can state, um, I can take a stand because I'm not dependent on what everyone else has got to give me. I don't know if that
No,
is helpful,
that was a
but
good answer. Yeah, for sure. That was a good answer. And I think I could even answer myself that I think when someone is in such a in a relationship that's intense and very, I don't know, dramatic, a lot of anxiety, then the first thing is awareness of it and being aware when it becomes intense, in what ways it might be intense, and I think that part of that awareness is understanding that if you are still in that system, that means parts of you are still interested in being in that system.
exactly.
And
Exactly. And
that's
needing
not
that system and
needing,
needing that.
exactly. Yeah, and that's an uncomfortable truth, right? To be able to see
It,
that, to be able to feel that, to know that this intensity is driving you crazy, but yet you're still here. So I think the next step after that awareness would be accepting that reality, understanding that
right,
that's the system,
right.
this is you at this moment. And something that helped me in the past, this is something very practical, is what would I do differently if I bring down my tolerance for this intensity?
Exactly.
And
Right.
very often that shows me the way, right? It would show me what behavioral changes I need to make to
Right.
take
What would
myself
I
out
do
of that
differently?
intensity. Yeah.
Right. No, and those are excellent points. And I wanted to share, we just have a few minutes left. I wanted to share, and I don't want to, if you have more to share, uh, Yitz, you certainly can. But I think of the gradation of beginning to take a stand in a situation. And take a stand does not mean we have no compromise or we don't negotiate, but taking a stand is not negotiable. In other words, as simple as, hey, your husband says, I want to go out and eat Mexican, but you'd really like to eat Chinese or Asian food tonight. You can take a stand and say, well, I really would enjoy and would like to eat Asian food tonight. I'm feeling that Chinese food. And now you may compromise and go, no, no, but we can go eat Mexican. But I'm taking a stand as to what I really want. But it doesn't mean I can't. Where the problem comes in is when we haven't, uh, where our self and our preferences are negotiable. And that's where they go, well, where do you want to go eat tonight? I don't know. I'll go wherever you want to eat. Now I'm not taking any stand. There is no self in there. You can take a stand and negotiate. But even if I go to the Mexican restaurant with my husband, let's say, or my partner, and we go to a Mexican restaurant, it doesn't change the fact I wanted to go to an Asian restaurant. That's what I preferred. And I took a stand on that. But I don't need to end the marriage because we're not going to an Asian restaurant tonight. So that's a low level taking a stand. Then I remember, and I think you've maybe seen in some of my videos, where the family prayer, where I was a pastor at the time, I didn't want to continue doing the family prayer at all of our family gatherings. I didn't want to be the anointed or person that I've got to do the prayer every time we're together. And I didn't want to do that. But I knew saying no, there would be some anxiety or awkwardness because my mom was determined that I should do that. So that's
Yeah.
another layer of discomfort. Then I remember when I was a pastor and with a council of bishops, in which I was a bishop, and I was telling them how I thought we were not serving those who had depression and mental illnesses and such, and that we needed to use professionals outside the church because we couldn't provide those services, and how much that was heretical to my church. and how I knew they would not be happy with that at all, with my view. And there, the anxiety was much higher, and it had to do with my career and my job and what all my other colleagues think about me and support and all kinds of stuff. Well, the anxiety goes up, and can we take a stand in those situations? And so I think we build ourselves to where we can take a stand in
Yeah.
intense emotional
I will add on that, and then we could end the video, unless obviously you have anything to add on that. That very often in the beginning when we start, or maybe not even in the beginning, right? Always when we meet a new level of challenging ourselves or taking a stand, then very often the taking a stand could come out a bit more aggressive or less flexible than it would with someone who's built that flexibility and who knows that going to a Chinese restaurant, even though that's not my first priority, is okay, but someone else that might be their way to take a stand. And that's okay. Like that's
and
part
that's
of
okay.
the process. That's part of the journey of playing around of what feels comfortable for you to be flexible with
Be-
and what is non-negotiable at all.
and 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 when we begin to do the work of self-differentiation and taking a stand, it's no different than when we start being a teenager and start being an adolescent. And we're going to make mistakes. We're going to not say it right. But we're going to practice at getting better at that and getting better at knowing ourselves to where we end up hopefully becoming calm, thoughtful, emotionally aware adults. And that's our goal that we're heading towards, to where we can take a stand while staying connected to the system. But that takes going through an adolescence where you're going to overdo it, underdo it. You're going to say, well, I didn't state that clear enough.
Yeah.
Oh, I stated that way too clear. I made it a declaration of independence, and yeah, we start. Whenever you try something new, you can overdo it or underdo it, and then you keep learning, and it starts becoming truly you. And then you get better at knowing how to state in a calm way you're taking a stand on emotional issues, and able to do that calmly.
Yeah.
And then we raise less anxiety in the system, and we also feel more confident and secure in ourselves.
Yeah.
Well, I think we've come to the end of our time, and
Yeah.
we've spent 20 minutes or so talking about this first principle. We've got about 8 or 9 principles left to go that we're going to be doing videos on. You can work with Yitz. You can book online at jerrywiserelationshipsystems.com to work with Yitz as a life and relationship coach, and in the area of self-differentiation too. You can work with me. You can contact me using the contact information below. Don't forget about the workshop on December 5th, 2020. And also, please join and subscribe to this channel. Click the bell to get all the new videos, and click join to join as a paid member so we can continue bringing these videos to you. Anything you want to share, Yitz, before we go?
No, nothing else. Join the workshop that I definitely want to recommend and share. Reducing our reactivity.
Right.
Yeah.
And that will help. I think that's another one of those principles, is reducing that reactivity and
Yeah, we
focusing
will
on
get to
that.
that.
I want to thank you all for joining us today and listening to us. I hope you have a great day, and be wise.
Bye, everyone. See you in the next principle.